Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Upsurge Minor League Week 7 matchup between Anonymous Esports, Rose Quartz, and Prism Esports. My name is Finnick. Joining me on the desk today is Goferino, and we're getting ready to go with this best of three. How are we feeling tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good. Very hyped up, although the weather outside is getting a little too hot for my taste. However, though, we have already started up the pick and ban here, with Cassiopeia being immediately taken off the table here by Anonymous Esports.
As well as the Trundle, Prism has played that pick 7 times throughout the season with their jungler, I Love Nuggets, so that makes a lot of sense. Varus being panned out, though, by Anonymous Rose Quartz. This is a pick that both the teams want to pick quite often, so it's interesting to see them ban it instead of first picking it on the blue side. Meanwhile, Graves and Zoe being banned away by Prism as the first pick. Ashe comes out from Anonymous. This is a new pick for their AD carry this season.
And Ashe has been rising up in prio recently, as people have been starting to look towards her more and more in that AD carry role, since most of the meta AD carries that have been dominating the scene have been getting these repetitive, just small tap nerfs over and over and over. And that's letting Ashe just come up as people are like, hey, she brings a lot to the table that we kind of like in an AD carry.
Yeah. Ezreal gets picked up here for ages too. He's played that one a couple times this season as well. Prism tends to like these kind of scaling bot lanes. Gets picked up with a Thresh. They've played this combo a couple times throughout the season. I'm interested to see if Anonymous will go with the Zillion here, or if they're going to go with something like a Morgana or a Bard. Snickers MVP has played quite a bit of Zillion. Hovering the Bard, though.
The Bard definitely has a lot of potent poke in the lane, even though he is a bit of a shortish range support and only really has that Q4 poke. If you combine that with an Empower and Beep auto, he can hit like a truck in the lane. Combine that here with the Ashe, you are setting up here in this Anonymous Esports bot lane for a potential nasty poke lane.
Yeah, and on top of that, right, they pick up the Echo. This could be mid or jungle, of course. Prism has played this one in the jungle previously, so it's a bit of a pick away regardless of which lane that's going into. Prism, meanwhile, picks up the Gangplank for the top lane, we assume, although obviously it could be mid GP if the situation is ripe for it.
Although mid-GP, something we haven't really seen too much for quite a while here, has been very hard-coded towards that top lane, since he does have a little bit of trouble with those ranged mages in the mid lane that can easily match his wave clear, matches auto-harass with their own ranged auto attacks, and then, of course, contest his barrels, which mainly top laners have a bit more difficulty into, so most likely going to be going to the top lane, but I do like that you pointed out that I might be going to the mid lane here, Finnick.
I mean, it can always go anywhere. Flex picks be the way they are. Kassadin being banned away, though, is a bit interesting because Prism Esports mid laner hasn't really been playing that one as far as in season, although their previous mid laner had been playing a bit of Kassadin. The current one seems to be, which is Petrification, currently seems to be focusing the Corki and the Azir most of the time. As we see the Orianna being banned away here as well, the Corki from ARQ. I expect the Azir pickup here if Prism blind picks their mid laner, but more likely it's going to be the jungle pick here for Prism Esports.
I wouldn't be surprised too if it was a jungle pick here, because part of the reason why people do like the red side a lot of the time is that you are guaranteed a counter pick here. Obviously, you can counter pick in the jungle, but that's not as big of a deal as counter picking in the top or mid lane. All right, bit of a Wukong hover. Had me tripping there for a second and almost made me look a bit like a dum-dum. However, the Olaf going to be locked in here for the Prism jungler.
Yeah, and on top of that, this is the second time playing that one this season. It makes a lot of sense. Please be the Anivia. Yes! Yes! Okay. My Anivia one trick is happy. My inner Anivia one trick was happy. Anyway, Quinn in the top lane. Let's talk about this pick a bit. It is one that Anonymous has picked quite a bit this season, which does complement the Bard very well in the comp. What are your thoughts on this pick as we wait for Prism's last pick in the draft?
So Quinn, she isn't really a meta top laner. You really do reserve her for those hardcore counter picks. That's why we would see her a lot in the top lane versus the likes of the Renekton, like the Darius, where she's just able to use her base CC with that vault, with that get him or get him Valor. That's her. I was almost calling her Bird Talon for some reason. I'm like, that's not right. Either way, though, she has a lot of ways to just kind of dig over a lot of melee top laners, and against the Gangplank, she is going to be very easily able to contest those barrels and give this Gangplank a bit of a hard time early on, since Gangplank can be bullied out early on, given that the oranges do cost quite a truckload of mana to use.
Yeah, and obviously, Gangplank into a range matchup doesn't always feel the best if you're not 100% on top of your barrels. Although, as the Quinn, it's not just your typical range matchup in the top lane. Of course, she has a lot of inherent movement speed in her stats, not necessarily just in her kit. Although, of course, when she goes with the beyond enemy lines, it turns into it's impossible to catch her on rotates. ARQ has picked up quite a bit of pick here, which I think is something we should probably focus on here as far as win conditions go, because they have the Ashe, the Quinn, the Echo, and the Bard, all very good in a pick style comp.
That is always a very strong pick comp when you do pick up the Ashe, when you do pick up the Bard, since both their ultimates, they tend to work pretty strongly when you want to just single out a guy.
Meanwhile, on the side of Prism, though, quite a bit of late game scaling. Gangplank Victor, Ezreal, but they do have a bit of an early to mid game jungler in the Olaf. What are your thoughts on this one?
Prism, obviously, they do have the early to mid game power there with that Olaf, but when you do look at all their laners here, the Ezreal, Gangplank, and Victor, those are all picks that scale fairly well and will want to take their time in scaling up. So Prism, they are most likely going to be playing the longer con sort of game here with that Ezreal, with that Gangplank, with that Victor. And this Olaf is just going to be a bit more of a bread and butter for the early to mid game to help them potentially transition into that powerhouse late game they have.
Yeah, the jungle matchup I think is going to be very explosive early, right? You have Echo and Echo and Olaf, both of whom are very good at early game jungling. Of course, Echo has kind of filled the niche that Elise had in previous seasons in the jungle, being able to be a strong assassin AP jungler, right? That said, when we look towards these clears, how do we think the first couple levels are going to go for both of these junglers? How are they going to play around their lanes early, etc.?
Sadly, I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to jungle pathing. However, though, Olaf does have that very strong power clear thanks to his passive, just letting him mow through those jungle camps. Because usually junglers, they don't like falling low. It puts them at a lot of risk to dying to the camps. However, Olaf, though, with his passive, able to get upwards of like 100% attack speed, depending on missing health, really helps him cleave through that jungle. And Echo, he did get his clear nerfed a couple of patches ago after he was kind of deemed a little too strong in the jungle. But his clear is still definitely good. Most likely going to be starting with that parallel convergence just for the passive bop on it, not to mention the shield, which helps him just get some pseudo sustain to deal with the camps. Not to mention, I mean, it's kind of a free stun to land.
And we are heading into the end game draft momentarily, so this gives us time to talk about the individual lane matchups. Of course, we already talked about the jungle. Starting in the top lane, we kind of brushed on it earlier, but give us your extended thoughts on the Quinn versus the Gangplank.
So obviously there is the whole counterpick aspect to where Quinn can contest that Gangplank, and Quinn can match the Gangplank scaling depending on what sort of build we see coming out of Halal on this Quinn, because if you do go the lethality Quinn, although I believe that has fallen out of favor, you do, of course, kind of drop off like a brick. That is much more of a mid-game and early game centric build. But we might even see a potential crit Quinn coming out, or just a very standard Blade the Rune King rush to give you that extra bit of dueling power, to give you that extra bit of sustain and split push power. And that is one avenue you can win through with the Quinn on, at least in lane, just out split pushing your opponent, because you'll shove the wave out and they either deal with it and then you can just try and roam, or if you're ahead enough, you can, of course, dive them. Granted, though, the Gangplank can quote unquote match Quinn's roaming every so often with the cannon barrage. So it's not all doom, gloom, and boom for this gangplank here.
Yeah, and especially when we get towards this mid game, uh, how the team set up around, how the team set up around their split push will be something to watch. Both these teams have fairly strong 1-4s. You can technically 1-3-1 with the Anivia and the Victors, but you're looking more towards 1-4, trying to get this out roam, as you were saying, and then watch these ultimate cooldowns with the Cannon Barrage and the TPs. Those will be really important as well. Moving on to the mid game, it will be the battle of late game scaling, Nivea versus Victor. It's like Azir versus Corki, except it's not.
I mean, you could say that about any matchup. It's like, well, if we look in the jungle, Olaf versus Echo, it's like Azir versus Corki, except it is.
Okay, well, you know what I mean here.
Either way, though, in the mid lane, I mean, you're the expert here on Anivia, so I feel like you should be the one weighing in on this, since you are the one with, like, what, 500k mastery on the bird?
650k. I mean, Anivia doesn't really win lanes, so it really boils down to how well can the Victor utilize his inherent early advantages with the ability to poke at a long range and get harder shove before Anivia hits level 6, as well as kind of, you know, is he going to take the Q upgrade first and potentially go for a pre-6 roam, or if he's going to take the E upgrade, how is he going to play around Anivia's punish as we get towards the mid game? The other thing is, once again, Anivia doesn't really follow roamers. She doesn't really win lanes. She just wants to get to her Leandri's Torment, Power Spike. That's her third item. Obviously, on 2 items, she can be fairly strong with the Archangel Staff, turned Seraph's Embrace, and the Rod of Ages. But moving on to the Victor side of this matchup, it's very much a how do I exploit the weak Anivia early game and snowball that lead. Anivia will outscale Victor ever so slightly, but if a Victor can get a 1 to 2k gold lead for his team, not necessarily even on himself, by that 15 to 20 minute mark, it becomes much harder for the Anivia to come back into the game because she needs to hit that Leandri's power spike. And if she's not on that spike on the timing, it is a huge power vacuum, especially when you look at the rest of the late game from ARQ. They really only have some utilities, a little bit of crit from the Ashe, and that's it.
Yeah, it does kind of make sense here that Anonymous Esports, they aren't going to have the best time in the late game here, since when you look down at their comp, it's not exactly the best team fighting comp. Sure, the Ashe, sure, the Anivia, they're great in team fights, and the Ekka can work well too, but you're working with a Quinn in the top lane, so you don't really have the best engage outside of the Ashe and Bard, which are definitely good forms of an engage, but how do you follow that up? You just basically have the parallel convergence. Quinn doesn't exactly want to be diving into this Prism composition, and I don't know if we'll even see that happening, since Halal might just be sticking to hardcore split push this game.
Yeah, that said, right, when looking at the potential team fights and skirmishes, Anonymous does have Anivia. If she's able to get a wall down, that is a counter to Olaf. He hates terrain generation with a passive, or with a passion, which is why you typically will see like a Trundle or a Jarvan into an Olaf. So if Anivia can properly disrupt the fight when Olaf goes in with the Ragnarok, the fights can turn very quickly, especially if you don't see the appropriate chains of CC from Prism. They have some crowd control with the Thresh and the Victor, but they need to chain it appropriately, make sure that the gravity field does what it needs to do, get onto the Anivia or the Ashe, because everyone else on ARQ is so mobile that you just need to you need to delete someone off the field or you're going to get dove pretty hard.
Makes sense, since you kind of don't want to be getting dove here if you're this Prism Esports composition.
Yep. Moving on to the bot lane, though, Ashe and Bard versus Ezreal and Thresh. What are our thoughts before we go to the ad break?
Shades and Stickers MVP, I do believe they should come out on top of this. The Bard poke plus Ashe poke should be a very nasty combo for this Ezreal Thresh lane to deal with, who won't be itemizing too much sustain, especially early on. The Thresh doesn't have a heal, well, he technically has a shield on the Lantern, but if you're having to use the Lantern as a shield in lane to deal with poke, that means you're already having a very bad time as the Thresh. And Ezreal, you'll see him pick up lifesteal, sure, eventually, but that's usually at the third item point. Maybe he takes Legend Life or Legend Bloodline here for that extra lifesteal, but I mean, still, that takes a while to stack up here. And Ajosu and Fart, they're gonna have to be dealing with a lot of harass in this lane.
Yeah, that said, we will have to throw it to a quick ad break before we start the game, so don't go anywhere. Take a listen to a word from our sponsor. This time it is Sector 6 Apparel. See you after the break.
Started with a vision of quality, a vision of uniformity.
We took the time to create something familiar yet refreshing, something with a bit of change.
Designed to fit any brand's unique vision.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Upsurge Minor League Week 7 matchup between Anonymous Esports, Rose Quartz, and Prism Esports. My name is Finnick. Joining me on the desk today is Go Farino. And on the blue side, we have Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz, Halal in the top lane, Yan Fang in the jungle, Sergeant Hades in the mid lane, Shades in the AD carry position, and Snickers MVP in support.
And on the red side here, we do have Prism Esports. Hold on just a second. We have Animus in the top lane, I Love Nuggets in the jungle, Petrification in the mid lane, and then of course Ujosu and Fart here in the bot lane.
And Invade coming out from both these teams towards the enemy red buff. We saw the Ashe place the ward back up, so it wasn't caught out by the Thresh, so it will just be vision being taken by both these teams. I don't expect any staying for buffs from either of them, but then again, Echo is staying over towards that Olaf's red buff, and if he can get this could be a huge blow to the Olaf early game.
I mean, any jungler kind of hates it when they lose their buff early game.
And now they are taking the blue buff at the moment for the Olaf with the leash. Animus now going to see that the red buff is being taken. Then the bush. All though. Goes ahead and dashes forward, gets some damage down. So this should be a handshake on a vertical jungle now that they spotted out the Ezreal, and indeed that's what we're seeing.
No real surprises there, since, I mean, don't want to be risking too much early on in this game, since giving up first blood to either of these compositions, bit of a pickle. Yeah.
Interesting thing to point out with the runes. We do see the unsealed spellbook on the Anivia. This is something that DJ Yasin in particular has been doing a lot of recently in solo queue. However, not as popular as her electrocute setup has been recently. However, I do believe she still is going precision secondary, if I'm not mistaken. No, she's going for arcane secondary, interestingly enough.
You do get the mana flow band out of that, and I believe he was taking the Transcendence, so gonna help this Anivia build up that CDR, since Anivia, like you said, only really gets one CDR item early on with the why am I forgetting? The Seraph's Embrace. That is a good 20% CDR, however, having that extra 10% CDR, always very nice to have.
Yeah, especially when you're looking around, throwing your E out as much as possible in these fights. Obviously, your R cooldown really doesn't matter. It's, 4 seconds. You can place that pretty much anytime you want. Halal, though, predicting that barrel placement by the GP, able to mitigate any damage potentially. As she's building up a CS lead for herself already in the top lane, which I think we expected to see on the Quinn, although not 10 CS already at 3 minutes.
That can kind of happen to the Gangplank if you're able to heavily deny his barrels, because then he has a lot of trouble shoving that lane. But we might see a little bit of a potential dive in this bot lane with I Love Nuggets around on the side. He's going to be spotted out there with a great ward of Snickers.
Yeah, that should be the recall from the Olaf, as Echo has completely cleared the top side of the map. Olaf did not get the Krugs, so Echo is actually up a camp. No, neither jungler took the Krugs, but Echo is going back towards the Olaf Krugs now, as he did take the Scuttle Crab in the top side of the map. Olaf now heading towards the Raptors.
Just gonna be going for a bit of a full clear on this Olaf, quote unquote, because part of said full clear did involve his enemy's bot side jungle. We might see a little bit of a meetup between the two junglers here. However, that one nice little ward by that red buff gonna spot out I Love Nuggets coming on up.
Yeah, and early jungle camps going over to the Echo at the moment. He is up the enemy's Krugs camp. However, he did not clear his own Raptors when the Olaf did, so equal CS, but I think the XP is slightly in Echo's favor, if I remember my camps correctly, or maybe it's the other way around.
It can be a little tricky.
Regardless, some play towards the mid lane, as Bard roams up to grab Charms, and there are fireworks in my background, because I live in Georgia. And Hades just CSing up under tower, about to hit level 6, has the tier already, but we see the dragon being taken by Prism Esports.
That's a very easy pickup there on that early Cloud Dragon, which they will kind of appreciate when they do look down the board here. Having the Cannon Barrage here for Animus on a bit lower of a cooldown is always handy. Then Ezreal loves that extra CDR2 on the True Shot Barrage, since his Mystic Shots do lower the cooldown of that, so every point of CDR you get is actually much more effective on the Ezreal, since it means your keys are technically refunding more of that cooldown when they do that.
Meanwhile, Anivia and Victor both at level 6 without any issue in the mid lane. Anivia, of course, is down CS a little bit, which is kind of to be expected. Wow, there are a lot of fireworks going on. It's not even the 4th yet. Excuse that background noise that appears throughout the stream. I can't do anything about the neighbors. But regardless, the bat comes out from the Victor. He does get the Mark 1 Hex Core, so he will have the upgraded E, I believe, is what he's taken. That is correct. Yes, he's taking the augment on the Death Ray. Anivia now going to take the back and build in towards her Catalyst of Aeons. First grabbing a Dark Seal as well as a Sapphire Crystal to help sustain through that lane a little bit better.
Mana always very appreciated on Anivia, since she's kind of one of the few champions in League of Legends that can have these 2 full mana items but still suffer from some mana issues. Oh, instant flash.
Oh, ball lands. Yep, there comes the flash. I think I'm a little bit behind you, so I'm just going to make sure I go up to speed there. At the moment, though, the Victor losing his CS lead as Hades now has the Glacial Storm available. Once again, kind of to be expected now that Anivia can actually farm. She will still have mana issues throughout the lane phase until she gets the 2, really 3 complete mana items, because Seraph's Embrace or Archangel Staff now builds out of 2 mana items. So it is the Anivia life. Meanwhile, on the top lane, though, a big wave is getting created by Co-Animus here. If he's able to deny this under tower, that would be huge, but I don't think he has the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, Gangplank with just a Sheen probably can't net a solo kill this early on, especially when Halal has been doing a fairly good job of denying these barrels, has that early serrated Dirk. So interestingly enough, going for the early lethality on this Quinn, not exactly something I expected, since, like I mentioned in the champion select, oh lord, that was a little bit of a hiccup. But like I mentioned in the champion select, you typically see the board because it does give you that better scaling, that better split push, and better team fighting overall, whereas lethality, for the most part on AD carries, has fallen off, except on Bears, but that's just more so because spamming Q is really OP right now on him.
Despite the nerfs to it, still kind of dank. Yangfang, though, gets sputtered out by a ward. Still going in for the engage as the wall makes the dash in, pops the blind, but GP was already out of that one. Meanwhile, Snooker's MVP goes ahead and takes it back here, grabs the Swifties, as Shades clears up the wave under tower. Pretty even as far as CS goes. Lane gank from I Love Nuggets. I don't think that was completely sniffed out, but it was completely avoided by this push from Prism. So a little bit of a misplay on the wave manipulation there.
And already at 9 minutes and 20 seconds into this game, we're seeing a little bit of Sixth Senses coming out from this bot lane and avoiding that gank, which is kind of big. I Love Nuggets, he is going towards the warrior upgrade. I don't know why I'm forgetting all these names all of a sudden today, but going towards the warrior enchantment upgrade on this Olaf, so going to be doing a lot more damage compared to the typical Cinderhulk Olaf build that we see that tends to fall off pretty hard in terms of what damage he can do in fights. However, with this warrior enchantment, sure, he'll get blown up in fights, but in these early ganks, he will be doing a truckload of damage.
Yeah, and obviously he has counter as well to synergize with his passive. We are now at the 10-minute mark. Only about 100 gold difference between the two teams as Hades goes ahead and takes the Scuttle Crab with his support. And the bot lane, of course, has a completed Catalyst. Currently about 350 gold away from the Blasting Wand, the first AP that the Anivia will get. But at the moment, we are just waiting for any real kind of skirmish to happen. We see the dragon spawning in 3 seconds, so mid laners are going to try to get wave priority, which Anivia being level 6 should go over to the blue side.
Yeah, this up-and-coming Dragon this Infernal is going to be pretty darn juicy. However, though, I mean... oh no, here's the contest.
Over the wall, and he's able to seal it back in with the Chrono Break! Yanfeng stealing the Drake like it ain't no one's business.
I mean, pretty clutch steal coming out of this Echo there. Sure, it's only an Infernal Dragon, but you have to remember that that is going to help them scale up here. And also, it didn't really cost Yanfeng much there. He's just able to go over the wall there with his E-dash and then just smite it on away. Use the parallel convergence to just hop on back, or sorry, the Chrono Break. I don't know why I always get the W names and the ulti names mixed up on Echo. However, though, mid lane, we might be seeing a little bit of a roam coming onto Petrification here.
Yeah, Bard making his way up. GP actually popping the Cannon Barrage to clear the wave, and Halal flashes to get out of that damage. So GP ult down for a Quinn flash. Quinn, of course, still has the ability to roam out, or in fact, go behind enemy lines all the way back to base if she really needs to, or I should say base and then take behind enemy lines to the lane. But we see the Echo making his way up to make sure GP doesn't get more than the single plate, as Anivia starts to actually win these trades mid lane, as she is fast approaching the Rod of Ages. Hitting that 13-minute mark, Rod of Ages, of course, kind of the mark to get as Anivia. 13-14 minutes is where you want to get that item. So looking on pace, as the Victor really has just been matching the farm in this mid lane. He's though, there's a Ragnarok, but he goes down and it still gets stolen. First blood going over to Yanfeng on the Echo.
Man. And I didn't think we'd be having to wait until 12 minutes and 45 seconds into the game here for First Blood, but here we are, Finnick. We saw 2 objectives be stolen before First Blood came out. Either way, though, this Echo picking up that First Blood pretty darn huge, and that is going to put this Olaf a little bit more behind, and a snowballing Echo can be one hell of a thing to deal with.
Yeah, and this also means that they can push in onto this mid lane tower. They're not going to channel the Herald yet, but they do have a minute to do so. There's the Herald being channeled at the moment. And yeah, just gonna grab the last place from the mid lane tower and go ahead and back off, as we are now at the 13.5-minute mark.
I love Nugget's gonna be able to pick up his red buff there and just saunter on off. Nothing too much happening, at least for now, across the map. But, I mean, both teams, they are gonna be feeling a little bit good about this, especially the side of Prism Esports, because we kind of mentioned it in the Champion Select Finnick that they do scale like monsters.
Yeah, there's a lot of scaling with the Victor Ezreal GP. Obviously, Anivia and Ashe do have some scaling, as we were talking about earlier, but with the Quinn going lethality especially, you need to start snowballing this game. They are now 1k ahead with that First Blood and the tower plates in the mid lane. So I do expect a little bit more action from the side of Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz as we get into this mid game. Halal being very aggressive on Co-Animus at the moment as the plates have fallen.
But I do think that this early Quinn build is fine here.
GP pops the Cannon Barrage. Halal. Flash gonna be taken out of the GP, but he flashed in place almost. Behind enemy lines, taken out of the way by Halal. As Cannon Barrage is down once again, this time the GP flash for it.
The Ignite actually giving Halal a lot of move speed there, thanks to the Nimbus click. It is always kind of funny just seeing someone use a summoner, then all of a sudden running at Mach 5. I know a lot of people on the League of Legends subreddit were going like, how the hell hasn't this rune been nerfed yet? And I kind of agree to a certain extent here, because it is a little bit nutty. But it does help Halal get on out of that situation and bait out the enemy flash. So I'd say Halal does come out on top of that. One other thing about Quinn, when you look at the behind the enemy line's ultimate, everybody's always like, oh yeah, it helps you roam. And it definitely does do that, but you also have to remember, it's like free home guards in the early game and lets you get back to that lane ASAP. Fart gonna throw out the hook, gonna miss the hook.
Home guard, what season is this? Oh, here comes Yanfeng though, on the Fart. Flash taken out of the Thresh though. And that's all you really need for the Echo E. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Ko getting aggressively traded upon despite being a level up. Wall goes down from the Anivia to help zone out the Dragon take. As Nuggets tries to make his way into the fight, Anivia pops the ulti. Gonna get some damage on a Nuggets. You can't purchase Home Guard anymore, is what I mean to say. It's no longer a boot enchant. It's no longer a boot enchant, all right? Flash taking out a petrification for the ultimate of the Bard there. No, you get Home Guard on the boots as like just a default now, but it's not the boot enchant. I guess you get it on TT as well, kinda. Snickers, Magical Journey, diving back in. Here comes Yanfeng, gets the parallel convergence down, but not enough damage follow-up as the turret gets taken down. First tower going over to Anonymous Esports Red Sports. Meanwhile, though, Yanfeng might be in a bit of trouble, has the Chrono Break available to him, gets beat up by the Victor, and the E-Flash over the wall to stay alive. Yanfeng will be okay for now. Meanwhile, Shades and Ochosu trading out a lot. The Blade of the Ruined King into the Cannon Barrage, but is flashed out of the way, and Shades gets the kill. Still gonna fall, and I said Cannon Barrage, that was a
True Shot Barrage.
True Shot Barrage. I almost said Arcane Shift for Mystic Shot. Wow. Wow. 1-for-1 for the mid laners. They trade, or bot laners, they trade. Blade of the Ruined King completed on the Ashe going into the Zeal as the Varus starts building into the Trinity Force.
Thankfully going for the Trinity Force here. My most preferred thing over the Iceborne, because to me, the Iceborne is like, technically you're only missing out on some damage and you do get that armor, but you have to remember, the raw AD is pretty significant here, since you don't get that with the Iceborne. Sure, you get a bit of it back due to the mana difference, due to mana immune, but it's kind of hard to compete with that. Not to mention the extra health does help with all sorts of damage sources, and not just the armor, which helps you do the physical damage, so I do agree with this Triforce here, but I'm a little bit biased.
Yeah, Trinity Force seems to be the way to go on Ezreal, though, recently. Obviously, Gangplank going into the Trinity Force without the Manamune into the top lane. I do like this over the Black Cleaver build. Meanwhile, Fart, though, in a bit of trouble. Pops a stopwatch. Wall behind him, just to make sure he goes down. Cannon Barrage gets popped. Fart will get taken out low, but he doesn't actually fall until it's too late. Snickers MVP goes down. Yanfeng now finding his way onto the enemy mid laner. He will get the kill. Now, Chrono breaks out. Ojosu now goes down. Double kill for the Echo. Just looking for more. Nuggets tries to flash forward onto the enemy, but it can't get it as he falls as well. Hayes picks up the kill. That's 4-4-1 in favor of Anonymous Esports, and they're going to take the second Rift Herald.
Absolutely brutal team fight coming out from Anonymous there. They're just able to steamroll the competition, and I have to ask Ejusu there, like, what were you doing? Arcane shifting into that fight, like, that was way too aggressive and leads to his death there. But the past is the past here, Finnick, and now there's almost 5,000 gold between these two teams, which is a very respectable amount for this time of the game, and it looks like it will be extended further here with this upcoming Rift.
Nice cue from the Anivia onto Petrification. Second Rift Herald gets popped. Yanfeng, though, still without the Chrono Break, as he did use it last fight, so he's got to be very careful. Fart looking for a hook as the top lane turret falls, and it looks like they're going to push off of this lane. For the time being, Baron spawns in 30 seconds. Anivia should be able to back and grab the completed Archangel staff as well and start building towards the Leandries. So she's going to start to get scary here as the Ezreal still quite a bit far away from his second item power spike. And this is very scary if you're up against an Anivia at this point, because this is exactly where she wants to be.
I get it exactly, because she has an egg pass. Jokes aside, though, I mean, Hade's definitely doing very well on this Anivia. Has a bunch of CS, also 2-0-2, so Sin very pretty. Didn't really have any troubles in the mid lane, because you said that was one of her troubles. She doesn't exactly have any winning matchups, but Fart
Oh, the hook lands back into the box, tries to take the magical journey out, and he still is able to make his way out. But Love Nuggets had burn, and that is all you need.
Red Smite can be a hell of a drug at times here, as we saw just now with I Love Nuggets picking up that kill. He's going to be spotted out by a very cheeky lantern there. Thankfully, Penis Fart not exactly going in fully for that face check.
I thought I was going to be the first one to slip up on that tonight.
You thought so, but I'm always known for being the first at everything. I was the first to know how to cast an NA, they say. Slightly biased statement, but I digress. Either way, we do have a dragon spawning up here in 10 more seconds as of now.
Yeah, Yanfang gets caught up by Fart. Nuggets pops the axe as Anivia gets the ult down to make sure no one else comes in. The ult from the Bard does quite a bit of damage as here goes the Anivia wall. That was beautiful. 2 kills going over very quickly. 2 Anonymous, and they're going to take the Ocean Dragon. First one, or second one towards Soul Point, I should say. So this will be Soul Point as they pick this one up.
And Ocean Soul, one of the best ones in the game in most people's eyes. So now being on that Soul Point does give this Anonymous Esports lineup a lot more threat. It gives them that little bit of a win con coming up potentially. I mean, sure, it's not going to make or break the game, but it will make the game that much more easier for them if they do manage to do it.
Yanfang now trying to find his way into Ajosu. Won't find the parallel convergence, but Ajosu still forced to flash out of the way as Shades goes in, down onto Ajosu, and the Chrono Break out to make sure he doesn't die. Down goes the Ezreal, 3-1-4 on the Ashe, 4-0-3 on the Echo, and this gold lead 6,000 at 22-18.
Might be a bit more. There's the parallel convergence, but that is going to miss alongside Snickers' MVP's Cosmic Binding, so thankfully, Fart going to be able to get out of that one and live another day.
Yeah, and you see, Landry's Torment already being started by the Anivia here, has the Haunting guys, so that power spike is insane. If anyone has ever been against an Anivia that gets ahead and gets that Leandry's by the 25-minute mark, it's basically GG. I say this being very biased towards my main burb Anivia, but, you know, come on.
A main is biased towards their main? Who'd dunk?
Oh, boy, the Ashe gets the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but the directed camera wants to see us kill the ward instead? Okay.
Petrification did flash out of that one, though, so able to live another day at the cost of a summoner. Sadly, like you said, the directed camera said, you know what? Potential fight, that's not exciting. You know what is great? This ward that's getting absolutely massacred by Snickers.
Speaking of wards, vision control on the top side of the map definitely going in the way of Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz as they start to get the vision towards the Baron. Nice hook, but Snickers already flashes out, played back into the box. Yang like though, going back in, Shades goes on killing space, he picks up the kill into the Thresh. Here comes the ulti from the Bard, only able to get onto Co-Animus as the fight fizzles out. It is still going to be a dead Thresh, and no one falling from Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz.
And keep in mind, that was a fight started out by Prism here, but Halal might be in a bit of trouble here. Here's 3 members, here's the Cannon Barrage, but the Baron's being started up on the opposite side of the map.
That was such a good bait. You see 3 members on the side of the map with the Olaf. Immediate Baron from Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz. They're going to grab this and not get punished for it at all. 24-25 as they go ahead and reset the map here.
And this is why you can't have your jungler show up in bot when such a pivotal objective is up. This is only going to make the game that much worse here for the side of Prism Esports, because they're already at such a huge deficit between the gold, between the levels, between the dragons, and now between the Baron. I mean, the base might just be under a lot of threat here, because now there's a Baron buff. Now Hades has the blue buff on the Anivia, so he can just spam and spam that Glacial Storm without any worries whatsoever. Animus!
Oh, he doesn't want anything to do with the Gwen. He's just like, I'm going to flash. I know you're going to dive me here. Yanfeng was sputtered out on a ward as well. We'll clear that one up as they take the pressure down in the 1-4 setup towards both the top and mid lane turrets. There really isn't too much you can do against this Baron buff, especially when you have Anivia wave clear, just to make sure there is no wave at all. Snickers MVP, though, does pop the Tempered Fate, unable to get onto the Olaf. This will be the mid turret falling, though.
It does force out the flash, though, from I Love Nuggets, which is fairly big. The Olaf only really has the Ragnarok Moosey. Beautiful wall, though.
Echo 2 just gets melted by Yanfeng. And the hook lands, but Shades not able to get out of that one. Ragnarok gets popped, but Yan has no fear, goes down under the tower, almost deletes I Love Nuggets. 80 carries are traded, but the top lane turret falls.
That is the threat of the Quinn here that gets ahead in that split push, because Animus, he wanted to go mid. He wanted to help out his team with that team fight. And in the end, it is a 1-for-1 off of a beautiful hook onto Shades. Props to Fart for being able to find that one. However, that Quinn just persisted in the top lane. This is one of the most annoying things when you're behind as a team. You're like, yes, we got 1-for-1. It's an even trade. That's good for us. Then you remember it was a 5 versus 4. They had another member split pushing, and said split pushing member was able to pick up a turret and maybe even more. In this case, it is only that turret and the dragon spawning in. There's the TP from
Tempered Fate, though, to keep it down. Halal, meanwhile, just split pushing in the top lane. Just wants to get the inhib, just wants to delay any potential takes. Animus is towards the top side of the map, so they already have that objective taken. Here comes Yanfeng into the pit, and we got the dragon. The soul goes over. That's 3 steals this game. Ragnarok gets popped as the Echo ults out to stay alive. Olaf goes down. So does Ijo-Su, and Petrification on the run. No flash, no problem. Triple kill for the Echo, and that's going to be game number 1. Going over to Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz.
They do still have a base to push into, however, though, so it will be possibly an extra minute or two here before we see that. Supers pushing into the... Oh, no, never mind. No supers yet in this top lane, and it fell too recently. But these base turrets under fire. Hate's coming through.
Oh, Ashe ultimate back into the E from the Echo. Ace goes down, going over to the Anivia. As Fart respawns, they take the second inhib tower. They're just going to stick it out. I mean, no reason not to, right? Petrification not up for another 9 seconds. Wall forcing the flash out of Penis Fart. And that was me slipping up at the very end of the game. Game number 1 goes over to Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz.
And what a dominant game number 1 to make a hell of a statement. And not even at that 28-minute mark, they're able to end it with 14,000 gold differential. Able to steal out all those objectives. Able to win out in every single lane. And I'm be honest, Prism Esports, they're going to be having to do a lot different in this game number 2 if they want to come back, since I do feel like maybe picking these 3 scaling laners might have not been the best idea.
I don't necessarily think it was just the scaling laners, right? You can do a lot with an Olaf early, even if you have scaling laners, if you're able to find a way to play strong side in one of the lanes. I feel like he just didn't spend enough time mid, where even though it technically is 2 weak side scaling mid laners, and if he is much more easily punished than a lot of other scaling mid laners, right? So I feel like it was a combination of the scaling lanes and the fact that the Olaf, I just feel like, didn't do what he was supposed to do early this game. Maybe it's nerves, maybe it's something else, but to me, it didn't look like the best early game performance from that jungle position.
We'll see if they're able to fix that going into game number 2. However, we are going to jump to a brief break here on the desk, but don't go anywhere because we will be getting into game number 2 of this series in just a bit.
Find your way into this wonderland. Cross the maze, the dark, the innocent. Chase the faith, the thrill, the heaven sent. I got you wild upside down. The labyrinth will guide you far away to a place where senses will decay. Your ghost and mind will shadow play. I got you wild upside down. Upside down.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Upsurge Minor League Week 7 matchup between Anonymous Esports, Rose Quartz, and Prism Esports. My name is Fennec. Joining me on the desk today is Gopherino, and we're getting ready to go in game number 2 of the best of 3. How are we feeling going into the second game?
I am keeping all eyes on Prism Esports here, since Anonymous, they had that massively dominant game number 1 for anyone who did miss it. However, we have already hopped into the pick and ban here.
Yeah, and the first couple of bans coming out, Zoe Volabear from Prism Esports, Cassiopeia and Trundle from Anonymous Esports, Rose Quartz. So far, no changes between game number 1 and game number 2 bans, although it'll be interesting to see if Prism decide to go for the Graves ban or if they'll decide to ban something else out from that previous game. And it will be the Ezreal.
Interesting, because, I mean, obviously in the last game, everybody on Prism didn't exactly have the best of times, but they're instead banning out their own Ezreal, and I felt like that Ezreal for them was working out fairly decently on a Josu.
Yeah, I don't think it was the weak point of the team at all. The reason why they didn't ban Graves, though, is because they will blind it. Despite the fact that Trundle has already been banned away, I feel like there are a couple junglers that can take advantage of Graves early, for example, Echo. So maybe Anonymous Esports wants to go for that pick again. Maybe Prism feels like they have a pick prepared for that Echo jungle if it gets picked again. We see the Ashe second game in a row for Anonymous Esports alongside the Bard. Nothing has changed in their draft thus far.
And, I mean, why fix what isn't broken? The Ashe Bard did serve them very well last game, as they're basically only soul engaged coming out on the Anonymous Esports composition, and boy, were they able to start a lot of fights with that arrow, with that tempered fate, and they were able to do a lot of damage in that bot lane there once they were able to get a little bit rolling, since Ashe able to spike earlier than that Ezreal, thanks to only really needing the Blaze Ruin King to spike, and even then has a very strong laning phase with just the components, whereas the Ezreal, I mean, it's kind of known for every AD player out there, but if you're facing an Ezreal with just a tier and you're sitting on a BF sword or like a fully completed cutlass, you usually beat out that Ezreal.
Yeah, that said, Prism Esports taking a different type of bot lane this game around. They're going for the Lulu Kog'Maw. Of course, Graves not necessarily the jungle you associate with Protect the ADC style comps. However, they do have Shen in their roster alongside other types of Protect the ADC champions, although they haven't played this particular combo. I'll be interested to see what the rest of their draft turns out to be, as Anonymous Esports, after thinking for a little bit, decide to pick up the Lee Sin. There's the Anivia ban from the side of Prism Esports.
I mean, that Anivia was just such a force to be reckoned with last game, and just, I don't know, why not just take it away here from Anonymous Esports, take away a comfort pick from that last game that did give you a little bit of that trouble. I don't feel like it was what ultimately won Anonymous Esports the game. I felt like it was just everybody cumulatively. But with that Vel'Koz being hovered, that does present a very interesting situation here, since Vel'Koz, we've only really seen him come out primarily as a counter pick in certain metas. There was obviously the Banner of Command rush Vel'Koz back when Banner of Command made its waves in pro play. However, I'm assuming that it is a very strong comfort pick here for Hades, because, I mean, we haven't really seen Vel'Koz in so long, Finnick.
Yeah, he has played it twice already this UML season, as we see the Riven being picked up by Prism Esports. So interesting to not see a Shen or an Ornn or really any sort of protect the ADC style top laner come out from Prism as they hover the Orianna. If they lock in this pick, I question their draft quite a bit here. I specifically question the Riven pick. I think Orianna works well with the Lulu Cog, but where is your front line? Where is your peel?
It's kind of a similar situation that we saw for the anonymous esports draft last game, actually. However, they're actually able to make it work since they're able to steal all those objectives and just generally snowball across the map with that lead. But they are going to be returning to the Quinn once again into this Riven, and that might be a little bit of a different story compared to Quinn Gangplank, because the Riven does have several dashes and is able to get onto that Quinn. And with very good timing on that W coming out from the Riven, you might be able to stop the Quinn vault.
Maybe, but it's got to be an immaculate Riven. This pick hasn't been played before by Prism. This split for the UML, so we'll see how well the pick plays for them this particular game, as looks like there's some readjustments going on in the lobby. We can talk about the lane matchups. We already just touched on it, but perhaps we can elaborate more in the top lane. It will be the Riven versus the Quinn.
Well, I don't know what the hell else it'd be in this top lane besides Riven versus Quinn. It'd be one hell of a flex if we saw Orianna versus Vel'Koz top lane. That'd be a little bit memey. However, though, the Quinn, of course, able to bully out those melee top laners fairly well. The Riven does need a little bit of time to scale, because this isn't Season 3, Season 4 Riven where you could just start the red pot and absolutely demolish everyone level 1, level 2. You do need a little bit of time to build up some CDR for yourself, some AD, just so you have bigger damage values, a bigger shield. And that's when we're going to be looking towards this Quinn to really push it. We did see the oh god, what was that item? The Vamp Scepter plus Serrated Dirk item? Yeah, the Sanguine Blade. Thank you to our lovely producer for reminding me. I still haven't adjusted to the new lethality items.
I mean, I was just thinking, remember Spear of Sojin on Riven? Like, we haven't seen her pop up that much in the meta since Spear of Sojin. You're talking about the lethality build, but she can also still go with the Bork Death Stance Rush, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. But, I mean, the thing with Riven is that CDR is absolutely so massive to her kit. Like, basically, back in the day when, what was it, the good old stat stick that had the CDR and flat armor pin on it, the Elite stick, when it broke up, most people did go for that Serrated Dirk. However, Riven would go for the Kindle Gem primarily, since she really needs that CDR compared to lethality, compared to the armor pen, since it just, CDR feels so right on Riven, being able to dash around more, being able to reposition more, and then, of course, being able to get your passive up more, which is very key. And I'll be looking in this top lane here right at the Animus and how he decides to play this Riven, because everybody knows there is quite the difference between a good Riven and a great Riven.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're up against Quinn, which is a difficult matchup if you're not completely on point with the Riven. So hopefully, if you are a fan of Prism Esports, Animus will deliver it here. But for the time being, that lane will be one to watch for sure. Moving on to the mid lane, it's Orianna versus Vel'Koz. Both of these mages have quite a bit of lane control and inherent wave manipulation. So I'm interested to see how that one will turn out.
Because, I mean, basically, Orianna does get outranged by the Vel'Koz for the most part. The Plasma Fissure, the Q, they are much, much higher range. And the Orianna might have a little bit of trouble dealing with that here versus this Vel'Koz. But you also have to remember here, Finnick, is that the Vel'Koz is very vulnerable to ganks when he doesn't have his flash. So one missed position into a shockwave into a grave smoke screen could spell the end here, or at the very least, a flash coming out from Hades.
Yeah, and on top of that, right, last game, Prism picked an early game jungler, wasn't able to deliver it on it as much. This game, once again, I feel like they need to try to snowball one of their lanes. with the Graves, that could be the mid lane here. That could also be the top lane, really depending on how things goes. I think it's a lot, as you said, it's very easy to punch the Vel'Koz in lane. That does lead us into the jungle matchup. It'll be the Graves versus the Lee Sin.
Obviously, the Graves will outscale. That's not really the biggest the biggest hidden secret here of this matchup. The Graves wants to power farm, really wants to scale into that late game. He can do a lot of wonders early on, but the Lee Sin is just able to make a lot of magic happen early with the Resonating Strike, with the Ward Hop. He is able to take a lot of very unique ganking paths early on that other junglers can't. And that's what you're going to be looking at here from Yanfeng on this Lee Sin. Like, how does he make use of Lee Sin's kit here to its fullest potential in this early game to help his team snowball?
Yeah, and speaking of snowballs, no new news in this game. I don't know where I was going with that transition, but we can move on to the bot lane. Kog'Maw Lulu versus the Ashe and the Bard. Ashe is from the Freljord. She probably threw a snowball sometimes, right?
Baby? I mean, that'd actually be a cool Kog'Maw skin now that I think about it, where instead it's like Snowman Kog'Maw and he vomits up snowballs, so when he presses W, so it's just like, bleh, bleh, bleh. And it's like that one SpongeBob episode where you see like Patrick get absolutely like pile drive by a bunch of snowballs.
Anyways, let's talk about this bot lane matchup. Kog'Maw Lulu versus the Ashe and the Bard.
Obviously, Ashe and Bard should have the advantage early on. However, in full-on all-ins, Ajosu and Fart should have a huge advantage on this Lulu Kog'Maw. They'll be able to put out severely more DPS compared to the Bard, compared to the Ashe, because Bard, he basically has his Q and his passive. After that, he's done with the trade. Ashe, well, she does need time to ramp up before she can really trade. She has to get the lethal tempo going, has to get the focus stacks going before she can pop the Q and really start autoing you. Whereas Ajosu, he just has to walk up, press the W, activate that Bioarcane Barrage, and just start puking all over you.
Yeah, and that is going to be another lane where could go either way, but obviously that Ashe Bard combo will be very oppressive. That being said, here at Upsurge, we would not be able to bring this content to you without our generous sponsors. And speaking of Kono Keyboard, if you're looking to take your game to the next level, it all starts with your peripherals. From keyboards to keycaps, mice, and more, our friends at Kono have gotten you covered. Kono works with the world's best designers, inventors, and makers to bring you some of the best gaming peripherals around. Kono have been huge supporters of us here at Upsurge and have made generous contributions to our prize pools. If you need to find a new keyboard, if you need to need anything else related to a keyboard, check out the Hexgears X1 RGB low-profile Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. You can use the discount code UpsurgeGG for 7% off your first order. For more information, head over to kono.store to check out all they have to offer. That's KONO.store. Kono, discover amazing products.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
is Go Farino, and we are getting ready to go. Game number 2 of the matchup. Let's see if Prism Esports can take this one back and make it go to 3 games, or if Anonymous will clinch out the series 2-0.
Oh, Anonymous might just start this off early. Josu, he's AFK.
Yep, nope, flash, but he's still stunned up against the wall, and Yanfang with the QQ auto. First blood going over to Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz.
And it goes on to Yanfang too, who can make a lot of magic happen in this early game. Hey, Josu, what were you doing there? You don't just go to Tribush and alt tab there. You're in UML. Like, buddy, come on. Like, get your head in the game. In the words of High School Musical, the ad I would always see while growing up in 3rd grade. Either way, though, I mean, with this extra longsword in this jungle, Yanfang, it will help him out in ganks, give him that extra bit of damage, but also help him a lot in his clear speed too, since hitting all the jungle camps with an extra 10 AD on your abilities, on your autos, it does add up over the course of your first clear.
It's not even the best song from that movie.
I never watched that movie. I only saw the commercials that they air 24/7.
Look, man, I remember that because it was like High School Musical was the same year that Phineas and Ferb premiered. It was like the same month, I think. I was like, oh man, Phineas and Ferb is so great. And I was like, you know, because I was a young kid, I was like, oh man, I love High School Musical. Now that I've like grown up, I'm like, oh no.
Come on, Josu. You're in laning phase. No, okay, I'll stop. But yeah, I never actually watched Phineas and Ferb growing up because it's like, it kind of like started premiering when I started like growing up a little, quote unquote, like aka I hit middle school, and I just start thinking everything from my childhood is a little bit cringe, but also it's like, I was kind of always a bit more
so good, though. Like,
I've heard it's good.
If it's 2 series from like when you were younger that you need to watch when you get older, it's Phineas and Ferb, because there are a lot of stuff in that show that you don't really get until you get older, because a lot of the jokes are very like they're not innuendos, but they're like can go over kids' heads. And the other one is the other one is Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is now on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I've kind of been seeing Avatar: The Last Airbender constantly in my Twitter feed for the past like month or something. If those of you in chat want to catch up more on Avatar: The Last Ender, be sure to add Upsurge Esports in the chat. They will be happy to fill you in on every little Avatar tidbit that you do want to know. Either way, though, I mean, we do have to get back to the game here, I feel, since sure it's been a calm first 3 minutes, but a lot has been shaping up here if we do look across the lanes.
Yeah, Quinn already with this massive CS lead in the top lane. Very similar to how it started in the first game. 12 CS where it peaked at this 3-minute mark, as we see. Otherwise, the lane's fairly even. Slight CS lead for the Ashe as well. Dragon spawning in about 1:20 here, as it looks like the Lee Sin is looking to roam with the Bard right now.
Makes sense. Bard very great at roaming. I love Nuggets in the mid.
But here comes the counter gang. Snickers gonna try to look for the stun as he goes forward, flash in, he's still stunned up, and the flash back from Yanfang to pick up the kill. That's 2-0 on the Lee Sin.
And Snickers MVP with the absolutely beautiful flash cosmic binding coming out on this Bard there, catching out I Love Nuggets, forcing out Nuggets flash, but then Hades with the beautiful follow-up of his own on the Vel'Koz flash, then using the Tectonic Disruption to knock up this Graves and just keep him locked up for them to secure their second kill of the game, as bot lane Aegis gonna eat up a lot of poke here.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and here comes Yanfang, far down 100 health. Summoner Heal gets popped, and I Love Nuggets is around, but decides to just take his Krugs instead. 1k gold lead at 4 minutes and 47 seconds here, and Anonymous Esports much further ahead already than they were in the previous game. They were able to snowball on a 10-minute lead. Let's see how they do it on a 5-minute lead.
Because with this already thunderous lead shaping up for them, they can really influence the map. If they're able to get this early Earth Dragon too, that'll help them immensely in these team fights, since they don't exactly have the beefiest composition, and neither does Prism Esports here. So whichever team gets this early Mountain Dragon, having that little bit of extra beef might help you out a decent chunk in the team fights. I'm not saying it's going to be the make or break difference if you are NK gold down, but it will be handy to have those few extra resistances that your opponents don't have, especially when you factor in the flat penetration, which can bring so much value against these squishier compositions.
Yeah, and on top of that, right, you're looking, neither of the teams really want to itemize into magic resist. That said, if you go for any sort of flat pen on either of these mid laners, you have to watch out and not build the Forbidden Book, because there is no healing from either of these teams outside of some Conquerors. So do be warned, Forbidden Book, not the best item this game, but...
Ellis, is that you? My LS senses are tingling.
No, Oblivion Orb is the great item in this game. Oblivion Orb is the great item in this game. But I just don't complete it in Morelos. If you don't complete it in Morelos, then I'm not going to flame you. Right? Simple as that. That's it. Animus hits level 6 before Halal in the top lane. Meanwhile, though, with the bot and mid prio, they are able to pick up the first dragon of the game. This time, Anonymous Esports' Lifeform Disintegration Ray takes Petrification down super low in the top, or in the mid lane. So, first dragon was the mountain. Second one will be the cloud. So, Soul will be either the ocean again or the infernal. We'll see how that shapes up.
And either one of those souls will be fairly nasty here. The extra damage from the Infernal against either of these compositions will be so hard to deal, but here comes Yanfeng into the bot lane.
Gets slowed up by the Lulu, though. Snickers MVP, pops the Ignite, Polymorph lands down onto Yanfeng, and he's trying to make his way out. Kog'Maw still does a lot of damage. No living artillery yet, but he is going to be attack speed up, and he's not able to get the Q down, but the two-man stun from the Bard should be enough to disengage the fight. Snickers MVP saving his jungler.
Very, very beautiful cosmic binding coming out from this Bard. Just able to stop all the aggression there. I'm sure Yanfeng would have been able to get out of that just fine anyways, but just, it's 100% play. It stops any and all potential aggression coming out and can deny any sort of tempo that Prism Esports would have wanted established off of that if they were able to force both Yanfeng and Snickers to back there.
Yeah. That said, still, XP advantage, full level over to Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz on both the AD carry and the support, so they're doing pretty fine for themselves. Shades has the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, as Aegisu still needs to get to the Living Artillery. Of course, that is still a very nice spike for the Kog'Maw, just being able to get the damage at a distance. But he still doesn't have any components towards the Blade of the Ruined King, so we'll see how they itemize going forward in the game, opting into the first time Berserker's Greaves to kind of synergize with the Lulu, of course.
And I mean, Boots first on Kog'Maw is actually fairly commonish, since obviously a lot of its damage does come from the Bio-Arcane Barrage and the Berserker's Greaves. They give you that 35% attack speed, which is hella efficient for just being a tier 2 item that costs 1,100 gold. Like, that's more than upgraded Zeal items, and those cost like a full 1,500 gold more. But also, he's very positioning dependent. He doesn't have any dashes, so just having that extra move speed to chase after your opponents after you press that Bio-Arcane Barrage is very handy to have. And when you combine that too with the Lulu Polymorph just hastening you, it can be very hard to outrun a Kog'Maw that's just sprinting at you at Mach 5.
Yeah, but I feel like they might need to go Mach 7. Gold lead hasn't increased all that much since the 5-minute mark. We're still about 1k up for Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz, but if you take a look at the Lee Sin, he is happily 800 gold ahead of I Love Nuggets right now, and that feels so nice. He'll be able to actually, he takes a Tiamat instead of going for the jungle item, so the enchant will go over to I Love Nuggets first, but only a little bit. Crystal forcing the flash. Here comes the Tempered Fate, though. His fart is taken down low. I Love Nuggets making his way down as TP gets channeled. Here comes the Magical Journey. Snickers tries to get out, but the collateral damage will do enough. Petrification TP's back from base into the bot lane, but there was no follow-up kills to be had. And Prism Esports get their first kill of the game.
Very, very great counter aggression coming out from this Prism Esports lineup, just recognizing, hey, They're going a little aggro in the bot lane here. How about we punish that real quick? The Tempered Fate, it did look good out of Snickers. MVP able to catch out Fart there. But Nuggets coming into this mid lane, just trying to stop up Yanfang here, who's able to get one plate as is Lee Sin. Still has this Rift Herald in the pocket too. Gonna actually pop that here. So with these 3 members in the mid lane here, it's telling me that Anonymous really just wants to bully out Petrification and I Love Nuggets here.
Yeah, so grab the plates, but Lulu was around. So there was no dive from the side of Anonymous Esports, as we see Petrification swapping out spells.
As expected with the unsealed spellbook. Although, fun fact, so in my school's esports league, we have a championship, or well, a league championship called the Gobbler Gauntlet. We are the Hokies after all. But so there's this meme that came up called Unsealed Rulebook, as there was this one player who would always bring up the rulebook, and we kind of just memed how it was basically win con for him. He couldn't win without the rulebook. So now whenever somebody in my school takes that unsealed spellbook rune, we call it the unsealed rulebook and just start kind of roasting that said player a little bit there. There's the arrow.
He's able to get the arrow, but directed camera doesn't want us to see the follow-up. Praise be directed camera. Showing us the simpler things in life.
That is the Cloud Dragon started up here. Let's see if Nuggets wants to contest here.
Goes back in. He's able to not get the steal. Flash back in from Yanfang as he dashed back over the wall with Safeguard. The Living Artillery, though, does quite a bit of damage. He needs to get a second one on a Yanfang to take the kill, but he won't find it. Infernal Dragon will be the soul of the game. And no kills, just a couple flashes taken.
Still, though, I mean, that is a dragon and an even trade of the summoners and ultimates here out of both teams. So Anonymous Esports, they gotta be feeling good here, picking up that extra Cloud Dragon. When you look at their team, especially the bot lane here, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow and the Tempered Fate, absolutely beautiful pick tools, and having 10% of that cooldown taken off. Although look at this play.
Here comes the Death Brush back in. Here goes the ulti, and Yanfang goes on a killing spree. Onto the Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw passive does a little bit of damage, but not enough to take down the Lee Sin. He's 3-0-0, has the completed Warrior Enchant, and is doing quite well for himself. Flash forward, Sombrero, but he's not able to get the taunt down, or I should say the stun. Now Hades is here with the support, takes the magical journey away as the Lulu makes his way over. Yanfang, though, gets some damage down as the Riven makes her way into the fight. I Love Nuggets still able to get the kill on the Hades through use of the blind and some auto attacks. I will take the blue buff.
Beautiful kill pickup in the mid lane. It is also going to result in his blue buff being picked up, and now Nuggets 2-1-0 on this Graves. Both these junglers really popping off this game, since, I mean, they kind of have 100% of all the kills in this game quite literally right now, Finnick.
100% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a quote indeed. I believe it came from Anchorman?
Well, 60% of the time it works every time. It's from Anchorman, yes.
He's referring to the
like
perfume or whatever, like, this is Panther perfume. 60% of the time it works 100% of the time. It's like, you're not wrong there, buddy.
I mean, so I don't particularly like that movie. However, that is still a funny scene, so, you know.
I liked it when I was younger. I haven't watched it in like a decade at this point. It's been a while since I've watched a ton of movies now that I think about it.
I feel like most R-rated comedies are all the same, and they make the same, like, 4 jokes.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that. Especially US comedies, like, I'll watch them, it's like, wow, I totally didn't predict that. Oh, wow, contrived confusion between the two characters. Oh, wow, the lead somehow made all amends meet and now has a girl. But top lane.
Animus pops the ult. Here comes Yanfang, though. Takes a safeguard overs. Animus actually makes his way out pretty easily. Will be a flash down, though, as well as a Riven ult.
Still, though, you have to keep in mind, Flash on Riven is fairly huge. I know a lot of people will meme like, well, she has like 4 dashes built into her kit. You have to remember, those are very short dashes, and they do have a little bit of telegraphing behind them. Flash is absolutely massive on Riven, so you can do the Flash engage with her.
Safeguard away from the shockwave.
Beautiful, beautiful plays there. Yanfeng, though, Temper Fate gonna miss.
Chan Crystalero also gonna be dodged out. 2 ults down, no kills to show, but Shades will just farm up the mid lane for the time being.
Nothing too much really happening outside of some ultis missing. I do think something might happen here relatively soonish with all these members.
Lifeform Disintegration, right? But that's a little bit of damage, not a lot. There was no true damage on the Kog'Maw, as passive hadn't really been procced there, but should be enough to dissuade any sort of follow-up onto the Rift Herald, which is what they want at the moment. Shades trying to zone out everyone on the far side as Halal makes his way into the fight.
You have to keep in mind, though, Shades does have no mana, has no ulti here, so we might see...
The Riven gets the ulti from the Orianna, but Halal is shielded up. The collateral damage does a bit of damage, but he's not able to get the kill as Shades gets kill on the Animus. Now, Nuggets a bit far forward, gonna try to find something, still ends up getting into the Lulu Wald after popping Flash. Yanfeng gets taken down low, taken down by the Orianna, in fact, through the QW combo. It's a 1-for-1, but the Rift Herald will go over to Prism Esports.
Prism Esports finally... Oh, it's not over yet, I think, as there's a little bit more Snickers. You have to be careful here, buddy.
Living Artillery does some damage, but not enough. Whew, that was close.
Very close, but Prism Esports, that is a very nice move for them. They trade 1-for-1, but able to get that huge shutdown onto Yanfeng, able to pick up that Rift Herald. Let's see if this is spotted out. Petrification, actually going to spot that out. Halal, please be careful here, like... Wards are very nice to grab. It is free CS3 money, but it's not worth your life. Like, as an AD carry main, I've seen way too many supports just kind of soft int so they could pad their vision score. And let me tell you, Finnick, it is not a beautiful sight.
Step 1, buy blue trinkets. Step 2, have the highest vision score in your games. Thus is the way of the gold mid player. That said, Chan Crystalero goes on the pit. Gonna be a swing and a miss, but here comes the Orianna also being able to get onto Shades as he flashes out. That should be enough to secure the dragon, as there really is no way of ingress.
And Prism Esports, they're starting to come back a little into this game objective-wise. Last game, weren't exactly having the best of times picking up all the objectives with how many were just stolen from them. However, this time around, they're able to basically steal that Rift Herald away and now just able to secure a nice free Infernal for themselves for the most part.
It was 3 objectives stolen. 3.
I thought it was 4. It was... Oh well. Sometimes big.
You didn't give a number. I'm just saying there were a lot of objectives taken that game and stolen.
That's true.
That said, this is a different scenario. Obviously, red side it's harder to steal dragons, just due to the nature of the map. But it's easier to steal barons, especially if you are a Sejuani or a Lee Sin.
Thankfully, Yanfeng is a Sejuani or Lee Sin this game. I'll let the audience try and decipher which one he is. A rather mysterious character, I would have to say.
Yeah, Animus, though, looking for a way over the wall. Yanfeng is here, though. Not able to hit the Q.
You hate to see it, honestly. Although, supportal combat coming out. Fart has to be careful here. Does have the backup of his own jungler, but a 2 versus 3 doesn't usually bode well for your team.
Why do I live in the south? I just heard the loudest freaking fireworks outside. And it was, for a second I thought there was a gunshot. No, it's just fireworks.
That is always a little bit of a question, but here's a bit of an engage.
Tempered Fate saves Shades. Here comes Yanfeng, though. Lulu Ultimate, though, onto the Riven as Yanfeng still gets the kill on the Fart. The collateral damage gets the kill. He actually gets 2 onto the Kog'Maw as well, as Kog'Maw passive will go down onto I Love Nuggets. It's 2 for 2. Animus tries to find his way onto Hades, but he will be slowed up by the W, I believe that is.
2 for 2 in the end, though. So even Petrification. He's looking for an adult.
Oh, you can't. You gotta respect it. You gotta respect it. You can't do that. Riptide gets spawned in the mid lane. That'll be first tower.
That's the thing about bar players. It sometimes feels like they kind of play their own game. Oh, that is actually first turret picked up though in the bot lane here, and it's actually dead even in the gold here between these two teams. So much more even compared to the last game, which was a bit of a hogwash. But Tectonic
The turret goes
Disrupt.
down the mid lane. Lifeform Disintegration rate does quite a bit of damage, as there was the 3 procs of the passive from Hades, but he wasn't able to get the kill on a Petrification. Here comes Halal, though. Maybe caught out, gonna be nearsighted into the Polymorph, tries to find a way over the wall, will find it, as the flash follow-up comes in from Nuggets. Halal taking on super low, he has Grievous Wounds on, trying to kite his way out of the fight, and he will barely survive. Here comes Yanfeng, hits the Q, going back in, polymorphed up by the Lulu, but he will end up making his way out. Flash forward from Ajosu, as Yanfeng flashes in, tries to get the kill, won't find a collateral damage, gets popped onto Hades, but he doesn't get a lot of damage down as Ajosu pops Living Artillery. Animus now trying to find a way into the fight, but Hades was able to get a slowdown. It's 1-4-1, flash forward into the ulti, Bard, Tempered Fate's his own AD carry. Animus, you can't afford to miss that one, as Hades makes his way into the fight. I should say Halal does. Kill goes over to Hades, though, and will be a 2-4-2. So it was a respawn from Halal. Flash forward on Ajosu. They're not done yet. Flash back in from the Bard with the Q. That'll be the shutdown. 3-4-2 in favor of Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz.
Absolutely dead even of a game here, and it's going to be even more exciting, Finnick, when we have this dragon spawning up in just under a minute here, as these teams, they're both going to be going at it for this Infernal Dragon. I feel it's going to be absolutely massive, because getting double Infernal here as Prism, that's going to be pretty big, but putting yourself on that sole point here as Anonymous Esports, that's also equally as huge here, if not bigger, I would say.
Yeah, and Dragon, 34 seconds. We look at how the gold is distributed across these two teams. Obviously, very slight gold lead from Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz. The Orianna currently 2k ahead of the Vel'Koz. Where's the difference in the gold lead now for Anonymous Esports? And that is on the Quinn and the Lee Sin, currently making up that difference, as well as the Bard, about 1,000 gold ahead of the Lulu. So not as concentrated as Petrification's current lead is, going into the Death Cap second item after completing the Oblivion Orb. So congrats on not buying the Forbidden Book, as looks like Anonymous will pull out the dragon.
That's
Animus
a cancel.
looks for the Suns down as he stays. The teleport cancel comes through. Here comes the Ash ultimate right back into life from Disintegration Ray. Able to get the kill on Lulu, not quite, as Lulu pops the ultimate onto I Love Nuggets. Tempered Fate, though, gets onto 2. I Love Nuggets all alone. He goes down as the ADC and support fall as well to the Vel'Koz. It's 3-4-0, and the Dragon going over to Anonymous Esports Rose Quartz.
And Halal, an absolute hero of the people here, able to stop that teleport with the vault there, able to help his team secure that, and Shades with that beautiful enchanted crystal arrow to start off that 4 versus 4. Let his team secure that dragon, then single out the Graves in the pit, and then eventually win the team fight there. This is going to be the parent start, though. You have to keep in mind, Petrification is alive. Animus is alive here, so this might be a little bit risky here for the side of Prism, or sorry, not Prism, Anonymous Esports. Getting a little caught up in my own hype, it would seem.
They will be able to take it uncontested, though, as the wave state wasn't in such a way as Prism could contest. That said, Petrification currently about 800 gold away from the Rabadon's Death Cap power spike. This is going to be really huge for the Orianna. Needs to be able to find a way to get the Shockwave onto this Ashe and the Vel'Koz, but also, if he can find the Lee Sin and that Shockwave as well, that is pretty much all the carry threat gone.
Yeah, because this Lee Sin, I mean, sure, he has the Black Cleaver and a Kindle Gem, but has absolutely no magic resist, and that's honestly not enough health on this Lee Sin if you do want to be the sole front line here, because you're going to get absolutely blown up. Yanfeng only has 2,100 health right now. Obviously, it is going to go up. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, it's actually a nice foul. I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if we potentially see a Spirit's Visage come out from him, but going to be the nice foul instead. Help his carries stay alive. There's Baron buff in full effect here, though, as Anonymous Esports letting these minions just hammer away on this mid-inner.
Yeah, and the top tower falls. It's the last outer turret for Anonymous.
Temper Fate.
No, gets on to Petrification, right back into the Enchanted Crystallero. The knockup from the Hades will guarantee the kill onto the Kog'Maw, and that's all the damage, all the sustained damage anyway, off the map at the moment. As Petrification is still around, needs to find a Shockwave though, and it needs to be a hell of a Shockwave.
And poor Josu there, like, you could honestly use that short little clip there in anti-bullying PSA, because what that man breathed, like, he had to dodge on the Tempered Fate, then there's an Enchanted Crystal Arrow, then there was the not the Life Form Disintegration Ray. Oh, that is a Resonating Strike, though, onto Animus's Revan, but sadly, the Lee Syndrome not going to kick in for Yanfeng. He can do a Flash Insect here at any time he wants, but wisely not pulling the trigger here.
Hey man, Lee Syndrome is a serious matter. People get affected by it, even when they're not playing Lee Sin, especially if they're on Howling Abyss, right? Like, if they get a snowball, you can see Lee Syndrome everywhere.
Oh my god, that damage in the top lane onto Animus. Sure,
yeah, Halal's doing just fine, because conversely, right, there just isn't any armor. So, not getting punished at all. For the Sanguine Blade, obviously there's a little bit of armor from the Riven, from the Aegis for the Death Stance, but no one else has any sort of armor. No one else is going to build any sort of armor outside of the Tabis. So, just, Quinn feeling all right as the top inhib falls. Bottom inhib tower soon to fall as well. Here comes Animus, though. Oh, nice magical journey to dodge out Animus's engage.
Very, very close there, and looks like the call is going to be to reset here for Anonymous Esports. They were able to garner a lot of pressure off of that. They're able to break open the top lane and take down that inhibitor, and then also crack open a bot lane inhibitor with the boys. Weren't able to take the bot lane inhibitor, but able to, you know, crack it open, leave it open there for the boys if they do want to come in. Wow, that's me saying open 4 times in a single sentence. Either way, though, we do have less than a minute until this next dragon, and this would be the Infernal Soul or the side of Anonymous Esports if they do happen to pick it up here, Finnick. Yeah,
really good on the Vel'Koz and the Lee Sin in particular. That said, Vel'Koz still 800 gold down on the Orianna, who does have the completed death cap, as Vel'Koz is working onto the Liandry's Torment. I don't think it's necessarily the best Liandry's game for the Vel'Koz, but I understand why, right? Animus, though, getting the duel down, pops the ulti, but he is taken down super low, tries to find the second proc, but he won't find it as the flash comes out. Here comes Shockwave, but it's not enough damage as the Orianna still falls. Yanfeng takes the Lee Syndrome back into the Nuggets as the magical journey comes out from Sticker's MVP, trying to get onto Lulu, who south falls as the turret falls in the base. Shades pops a stopwatch, will still fall as Yanfeng tries to get the kill onto Fart. He's down to 100 health. Both of them are, in fact, but it will be Yanfeng going down to the graves. Meanwhile, though, it's Halal just going at the Nexus, and there's no recalls, and that's going to be it for the series. Anonymous Esports, Rose Quartz, take it 2-0. They're going to go 4-3 on the season.
That just when they were starting to kind of get a little bit of a comeback team fight there in the bot lane, just the top lane differential coming out. This Quinn unstoppable into the Riven after this Quinn gets a few items here. Halal able to end the game on his own terms there, led his team 2-0 the series over Prism Esports.
Yeah, well, game number 1 definitely felt like Halal did very well on the Quinn. This game, it was the biggest split push menace I think I've seen in a long time in high diamond play. A lot of the times, like, teams don't quite stick to the split push guns even at this elo, but Halal just stayed consistently in the side lane and made the Riven's life a living hell.
And you kind of have to commit to that as this current Quinn build here with the Sanguine Blade, since Sanguine Blade is literally the split push item. However, though, Finnick, who do you have to give MVP to, though, this series?
I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, I'm partial to the Anivia in game 1 from Sergeant Hades, but I feel like this game... But I will say this game didn't feel like as much of a standout performance. I do think Yanfeng probably was the most consistent performer from Anonymous Esports across both these teams, and I think he probably is deserving the MVP here, especially after that game number 1. 3 separate occasions, able to get these steals down, carried his team through the early game, this particular game, and through the mid game in the previous one. So I want to give it to Yanfeng, but what are your opinions here?
I do agree. I do believe it should go to Yanfeng. His objective securing in game number one was able to help him garner a lot of their lead, but also just his early game pressure in this game number two was also clutch. So I'm going to give it over to Yanfeng myself.
Yeah, and our producer tonight decides that Snickers MVP deserves a shout out as well. Very well done with the Bard, able to get some very nice tempered face, and obviously a couple of mechanical uh, plays in there as well, with use of the Cosmic Binding, and of course that magical journey towards the end of game number two. All that being said, though, that's all the time we have for tonight, all the games we have for tonight. So playoffs next week for UML as well as UJL and UCL. We've already started playoffs for the UPL as well. That was this previous Tuesday. So plenty of coverage coming up on the Upsurge Esports Twitch channel. So do make sure you follow if you have not already. And Go Farino, any final words for tonight before we sign off?
No, just another shout out, of course, to Reed for being our beautiful streamer tonight. But with that being said, this has concluded our broadcast here. Thank you to all our beautiful viewers for coming out.
Yeah, and from everyone here at Upsurge, administration, production staff, and everyone in between, my name is Fennec. That's Go Farino, and we will see you when we see you.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true.